Hi everyone, my name is Jen and this is Beast House of Plants, where we talk things houseplant and home design. Welcome back to LECA week on my channel. So today is actually day 4 of LECA week, so if you missed any of the past 3 videos, I'll make sure to link them down in the description box for you. In those videos, we discussed all the basics of what is LECA, what are the things you need for LECA, how I transfer my plants from soil into LECA. Today's video is going to be more focused on the long-term maintenance of having your plants in LECA. And I'm going to be walking you through what one of my typical flush days look like. Alright, so let's get into it. Okay, so what are flush days? Flush days are how you maintain your plants in LECA. When you are watering your plant, even if they are in soil, the water has excess salts and minerals that cannot be absorbed by plants. So if you have a lot of your soil plants in terracotta, the white stuff that builds up on the outside, that's usually excess salt and minerals. And on LECA, that becomes quite prevalent because there is no soil to kind of buffer in between all of those excess minerals. So they usually end up getting deposited on the top of the LECA and then need to be just washed away to help your plant properly absorb all of the nutrients that you are giving it. Most people average around doing flush days every month or so, but that number can vary depending on what type of water you are using and like where you live and things like that. If you're only using filtered water, I feel like you could probably get away with doing flush days less often, but I do like to do them at least once a month. Recently I've actually started doing them every 2 weeks because I switched to using tap water, and obviously if you're using tap water versus filtered water, tap water has more hard minerals and stuff like that. So I am seeing more buildup on my LECA than I did when I was using filtered water. So for me, I really use flush days as an opportunity for me to do all of my plant maintenance on my LECA plants. So that means if something needs to be repotted, I repot it on LECA day. I check on my roots if necessary. If anything needs to be trimmed or cut off, that's what I do on flush days. Flush days are also when I completely change out the water reservoir for my LECA plants. So the cash flow that's holding all the water, I dump all of it out, I clean it, and then I mix up new nutrient water. So that means I'm only mixing up nutrient water on flush days. Any other week that is not a flush day, I am only giving my plants water that has been pH'd. I would obviously recommend that you use filtered water if you're starting out, because tap water is such a big variable. So filtered water that has been pH'd. You could optionally also add in a drop of Super Thrive in the weeks that you are not giving your plant nutrients. I do that for plants sometimes. I don't do it very consistently, but I do really like Super Thrive. So sometimes if I feel like they need a little boost or something, I will give it to them then. So let me walk you through one of my typical flush days. So I will bring in every single LECA plant into my bathroom. They currently do all fit on the sink with the exception of some of the really big ones. So plants like my Philodendron Splendid or my Syngonium albo, I'll put those in the shower. I'll flush them in the shower, and it'll give me a good opportunity to also like moisten and wet their moss pools and things like that. Otherwise, I do it in the sink. Okay, so how I actually do like the flushing. So I take the plant, I dump out all of the reservoir water, I clean that container, and then I turn on the tap, and then I run my LECA through the tap for quite a while. Someone did ask me once, like, oh, if the tap water is what's causing the buildup, like why are you using tap water to flush? And I said that the analogy I usually use is think of it kind of like pressure washing. Don't really know if that's like a good analogy, but that's how you flush. Like if you just put in a lot of water throughout, it'll pull down all of the excess salts and minerals and it'll, leach out. So I do that for a while, make sure it's all evenly wet, and then I put it back into the container that is now, empty. I have started doing this kind of optional step because when I switched to tap water, I noticed that there was more buildup. So I bought a product that is specifically created for flushing called Fox Farm Sledgehammer. It's made out of yucca, I believe. It is quite interesting because when you dilute it, so you have to dilute it in water. I just dilute it according to the instructions on the back, which I believe is like half a teaspoon to every gallon of water. So you're using like a teeny tiny bit. After you dilute it into water and you pour it out, it has like a soapy look to it, which I think is so interesting. So then I will completely fill up my container all the way to the top so that LECA is now floating to the top with this diluted Fox Farm Sledgehammer water, and then I let it sit for an hour. I'm going to be honest that I don't think that this step is necessary. I don't dislike the product. I do like the product. I do think it does what it advertises to do. It does clean. It has a soapy look to it. It doesn't smell, which is really nice. And my LECA does look visibly cleaner after I use the product. I just don't really think that with houseplants, especially if you're flushing quite frequently, I just don't know if you are creating that much buildup that you would necessarily need a product specifically to do that. If you accidentally over fertilized, or if you are accidentally mixing up your nutrients and you realize you mixed up the wrong ratio of nutrients, this might be a helpful product to kind of like undo that process and like help leach out all of the nutrients. But overall, I think if you're just growing houseplants, I really don't think that this product is a necessity. I do have it now because I've already purchased it, so I'm going to continue to use it. But yeah, it's kind of expensive. I think it's like $25 a bottle or something, so I don't really think it's completely necessary for you to purchase. So I let my sledgehammer mixture sit in the water reservoir completely to the top for about an hour. Going to be honest, usually I let it sit for more because I have forgotten about the plants. So yeah, and then I come back and then I completely dump out the sledgehammer water, and then I run everything through the tap again, and then we mix up new nutrients. I discussed at length in yesterday's video about nutrients, about my schedule, about how I worked up my plant's tolerance to nutrients. But at the moment, what I'm currently using for my nutrients is the Fox Farm series. So my current ratio is for every gallon of water I do 10 milliliters of Hydro Grow Big, 10 milliliters of Buds and Bloom, and between 10 to 20 milliliters of Big Bloom. And for the amount of plants I have, I usually have to mix up 2 gallons of water. And then after I mix it, I obviously like close the cap. Currently I'm using a recycled Arizona green tea bottle as my gallon water reservoir. If you are going to be reusing food containers, please make sure you are labeling your containers, because obviously you don't want to somehow accidentally ingest the nutrients that you're giving your plants. And then once the nutrients has been mixed into water, you have to use it within 24 hours, because after 24 hours it starts degrading and it no longer has the strength that it had when you mix it up. And also over time the pH of the water does change, and that's totally normal. But yeah, so once you mix the nutrients, you should be using it within 24 hours. You can't keep it like in the sink, or under the sink or anything like that. So after I mix up my nutrients, I then pH it. Normally for me, if I'm using nutrients, I have to do pH up. But if it's a week that's not a flush week, then I have to use pH down. So I'm pHing up to about a 6 to a 6.5 using the color indicator test. Once again, if you have one of those digital pH sticks, I would recommend that because you can get, you know, a really accurate number. Just using color indicator test, it's been working fine. So then I'm going around and I'm giving all of my plants the nutrient water till about a third of the way of the container. So yeah. Okay, so someone recently asked me what my plan for this upcoming winter season is in regards to my LECA plan. Like, does the schedule need to change? Because conventional teaching with soil plants is that you cannot fertilize your plants during the winter time because you risk over fertilizing because your plants aren't growing as rapidly and therefore they do not need the same amount of nutrients. I'm not planning on changing anything with my LECA plant at the moment. This is my first winter with my LECA plant, so that might change, you know, as we are, you know, getting into the colder months, and I will keep you guys updated on if that does change. But at the moment, I'm not planning on changing anything with my schedule, and this is my reasoning. So LECA, like I mentioned in the very first video, is a completely sterile medium. It has no nutrients at all. Therefore, it's important to feed your plants consistently year-round, and the dosage that we're giving our LECA plants is very, very low. My second reasoning is that as houseplants, the plants themselves are not, you know, as affected by seasonal changes as plants in the wild would, obviously, because we as, you know, houseplant enthusiasts, houseplant collectors, etc., we are controlling a lot of the external factors. If you're watching part 4 of a 4-part LECA series, you're probably pretty invested. And so we have, you know, grow lights to add supplemental lighting, we have humidifiers, we have heat mats, etc. And last winter, I really didn't notice any plant that stopped growing. A couple of them might have, you know, grown less quickly, but I didn't really notice like any plant that just completely went dormant or anything like that. So I'm not planning on changing my LECA schedule at all. If I were to change my LECA schedule, what I would do is to go back to once a month flushing instead of twice a month flushing, because technically that would mean that my plant would be getting half the amount of nutrients that it is currently getting every month. And if you're already on a once a month flush schedule and you wanted to give your plants less nutrients for winter, I would not flush less. I would just lower the dosage that you are giving your plants. But I don't really see a need to yet. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. I'm so excited to show you my LECA update tomorrow. I'm going to show you every single plant I have in LECA and how they are doing. So yeah, I think that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, please make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!